Okay, so we will continue from this. So flip learning is a pedagogical approach in which the conventional notion of classroom-based learning is inverted. So here we mean to say inverted, we are reversing it, okay? So that students are introduced to the learning material before the class, with class time then being used for deeper understanding through discussion with peers and problem solving activities facilitated by the teacher or the teachers. So here it is an inverted or maybe the reversed classroom. Usually what happens, any new topic is introduced in the classroom and the student learn in the classroom. But now in the flip learning, what is happening? The students are learning even before the class in advance, maybe the material which is being shared with the students by the teacher, right? And you can also, as right now, one of your participant teacher was saying, like how he is trying to motivate the students, but still students, they think that it is just a YouTube material and all that, they are not interested. In order to involve the students, let the student, when they come back to the class, right, the traditional class is used for making a presentation, having a discussion on the presentation and deepen the understanding, and then the teacher can facilitate by adding the points which are not given by the students. So apart from the discussion, they can also have some activities, right? They can also have some demonstrations if it is possible. So such things can be done in a flipped classroom. The students would have the advanced material, they learn and they come back, and then they involve in presentation, demonstration, discussion, and maybe the activities. So this is a new approach, that is the flip learning. Then flip shifts the classroom from passive to active learning, focusing on higher order thinking skills such as evaluating, analyzing, and creating to engage students in learning. And since the students would have learned the material much earlier and they come back to the class, they come back and they can have the questioning session, discussions session. They can also have syndicate discussion. They can also be divided into the group, right? And they can analyze and evaluate the material, and the students can also create the material over that, and later when they go back they can have the assignments, they can also have the activity sessions and all that. And that way it is shifting the classroom from the positive to the active learning environment. And this approach also relies on understanding the difference between information and knowledge acquisition, providing students with active learning possibilities. So just like the professor was telling, the students have collected information only from the computer lab. So there is a difference between just information collecting and maybe acquisition of a knowledge. It is not merely that the student should go to a website and just collect from the website or maybe something, the textual material or maybe YouTube material, and without giving a thought to that, understanding or analyzing and coming back and just handing over to the teacher. It is knowledge acquisition. The students need to go through it, and the student has to prepare the points, the students have to prepare the questions, the student has to solve the problems, the student has to come back with certain discussion points, right? And then when they come back to the class, they should have the discussions, they should have the presentations, they should have the demonstrations, they should involve in a activity, and then they should deepen their knowledge. Okay, it has to be a knowledge acquisition rather than collecting the information. And this knowledge acquisition with a approach for analyzing, evaluating, and creating information is a higher order, that is skill, and which is very important for the active learning possibility. And they are also given the opportunity, students, for a greater responsibility for their own learning. So we are shifting the paradigm. So the not just it is the merely the teacher who is just passing on the information from the teacher to the student. The student take the responsibility for their own learning. You are giving the material, asking the students to learn. And here it is not that you are just passing this material to the student. You need to prepare like what the student is supposed to learn, and what is the master learning, what is the goal that they should reach by reading that, what they are supposed to do, by watching that YouTube material, what the student is supposed to do, and what points they should come back with, and with what questions they should come back with what discussion points they should come back with, and with what activity that they should come back with with what learning gains they should come back with. That the goals are what the student is expected to do once the student is coming back to the classroom need to be given by the teacher along with the material. Only then the student can focus, can learn the material, then come back with that mastery and can have a discussion, then can have a problem solved, then they can have involved in a active or maybe in a engaged activity. Otherwise, if the teacher is simply passing the information, they may just go through it or they may not go through that and they simply they may come back to the class. No, that should not happen. So along with the material, when there is a textual material, animated material, there is a YouTube material, there is an experiment, there is something. With everything, there has to be a expected outcome from the student that they should come back to the class with these expected outcome. They should come with these type of points that should be given. Only then they learn how to explore and then they learn how to apply the knowledge. That is very important in a flipped classroom. And the teaching is focused more on providing significant learning opportunities, providing feedback through a variety of pedagogical strategies and ensuring understanding. Usually whenever there is a flipped classroom, there is also a discussion platform provided wherein there can be a discussion between students and teachers. Okay. So it is as good as like maybe in the WhatsApp groups or maybe in Instagrams, there are chats just like that. There is a discussion platform where the student and teachers can chat and where there can be a chat discussion between among the student or maybe among the peer group. And so that there is a lot of ample space for learning opportunity through discussions, through chats also. And a teacher can also monitor like what a student is learning and what is being discussed and whether they are in a right they are using the right strategies. And the teacher can intervene and can also have their discussion points maybe on these platforms. So in a flipped learning approach, focus on the development of a flexible environment. And here what is happening, flexible environment, the student, they take their own time in order to learn, to reach to the goal. And they take some students may take less time, some students may take more time, but every student has to master the knowledge or master the or whatever the expected goal that is being given to the students, and they should come back with that to the classroom for further activities. So why should we keep our traditional learning environment? So what is the need or what is the benefit? Usually in a traditional classroom, there is a lecture homework activity, but in a flipped, the student learns like whatever the lecture, the material is given, and they're going to come back and do the classroom activity. So when working towards changing a paradigm, especially one that may have worked well for us as students, it is important to consider the future. Like what will our students' emerging careers be? And what skills and knowledge are essential for them to be engaged in their professional world? And what paradigm might they face? So nowadays, that the whole world is become a like a global village. It's like a global village. So there are emerging professions and there are a lot of skills which are required in a 21st century. A teacher should know, like with these flipped classroom, somebody is having their microphone on. Hello, would you put off the microphone? It is disturbing. Somebody's microphone is on. Yeah. Thank you so much. And the teacher, before, like whatever the materials, whether it is a textual material, animated, audio or visual or YouTube, any material that is being sent to the student, should know with each material what is that is expected, whether the students are acquiring a knowledge, whether they are learning to solve a problem, whether they are developing some skill in solving a problem, when they will be engaged in a communication. So what is that skill which is required in the professional world that you are developing through these flip classes, that need to be clearly decided by the teacher before that. It's not that simply the teacher should correct some material, pass on to the student. So each material or each content should have certain expected goals or maybe the behavioral outcome on the part of the student, and each one should have some sort of a knowledge-based objective or a skill-based objective or problem-solving objective or analysis or synthesizing ability or creative thinking. So which is very important for their professional career maybe in a 21st century. And these are very much important in a flipped classroom. And to change our paradigm from teaching to learning is to view education through a new lens. So seeing our work in a different light and having diverse experience as we and our students interact to learn. So we are changing the paradigm from teaching to learning. So the focus is not just on teaching, but the focus is on learning. So what is that the role of a teacher? It's not that when the students are learning on their own, it's not that the teacher is free from any work, or they are no more they are teaching. So the teacher is become a facilitator. The teacher will have a much more responsibility. The teacher need to be putting on more effort in collecting a multiple type of materials which would cater to the different learning styles of the student, and each material will have some sort of a objective when we are sending it, and each content when they come back, that should have some activity, some discussion, some sort of a demonstration, or some sort of a role play, or whatever it is. So the work of a teacher will, rather than from a teacher, he becomes a facilitator. So he facilitates learning, and the learning becomes the responsibility of the student. So the teacher will have a much more important role to play rather than just the passing on the information. So we will no longer be assuming the role of a sage on the stage, where students merely watch and listen and are expected to absorb information like a sponge. It is no more that a teacher is no more on the stage just lecturing and student just observing the information. So both the teacher has to put in a lot of effort in arranging the material, creating the material, or maybe collecting the material, editing the material, and preparing that material with certain objectives, and then sharing with the students, and then monitoring the students. Then the teacher should mentor the students, right? And then again see that the students are coming back with the expected behavior. So that is very important, and that is the changing paradigm in a flip learning. And we will also become more of a guide on the side. It is not that the teacher will be interfering on everything. The teacher provides all the material to the students, allow the students to learn on their own, and the teacher would act as a guide. Whenever the student requires any guidance, whenever the student has a question, whenever the student is finding it difficult to understand and all that, the teacher is always there as a facilitator and as a guide. So guide on the side. It's not that the teacher would be interfering every time. Allow the students to have time, learn on their own, have their own strategy and process of learning. And whenever the student requires the guidance on the part of the teacher, he should always be there on their side. And there has to be a constructing meaning through the deployment of active learning techniques. So the student should learn meaningfully. So they should construct their own knowledge. It is not that in a traditional learning, it is only what of learning. What of learning in the sense the teacher keeps lecturing and the student just passively listens and learns what it is. But here they should have a constructive meaning for learning. When they are learning something on their own, they should know why they are learning it. What is the importance of its learning, and with what objective they are learning, and what skills they are going to develop, and what abilities they are going to develop, and what knowledge acquisition, how that is going to help them in solving the problem. So that is for every knowledge that they acquire, there has to be a constructive meaning in a flipped learning. Learning is not a spectator sport. It's like whenever there is a sports or something, we are only a spectators, we are watching it, or at most we are probably motivating, that's all. But here learning is not a spectator sport. They have to take the responsibility on their own, and that learning has to be meaningful, and knowledge needs to be acquired, and that knowledge needs to be translated in solving the problem or for a practical purpose. And students do not learn much by just sitting in the class listening to teachers, memorizing the whatever the repackaged assignments and spitting out answers. It's no more that they'll be memorizing it and they are writing it out in the test or maybe in the examinations. Whatever they learn it with constructive meaning, and they know the why of it, the how of it, and what of it. and then only they would acquire the knowledge and they would know how to utilize that knowledge for solving the practical problems. And they must talk about what they are learning, write about it, relate it to past experience, and apply it to their daily lives. So every content that they are learning, whether it is audio, visual, animated, or anything that is being learned by the student, they should be able to say what they have learned, how they have learned, why they have learned, and they should be able to write about it, and they should be able to build over their past experience cumulatively, and they should also know how they can apply it practically in their daily lives, how they can solve the problem, maybe in the surroundings, maybe in the community, maybe in the society, how it will be useful for them in developing the skill, in developing a knowledge and all that. And that constructive meaning should be there with every lesson that they are learning. And they must also make what they learn a part of a learning. So when they are learning, what they are learning should be a part of themselves, and they should know that what they are learning, why what they are learning and why they are learning is very, very important. And there is another important emerging trend that NEP 2020 speaks about data science as well as artificial intelligence. And nowadays, you all know it that we are using one of the apps, that the Chat GPT, that almost all the students are using and even the teachers are using. The Chat GPT is a part of this. That's nothing but an artificial intelligence. And this is also an emerging trend which emphasize on certain topics and repeating concepts that are difficult. It helps students to grow at their own pace. Artificial intelligence in the education industry has changed the role of a teacher to that of a facilitator, and it can take place of a teacher for basic courses. For basic courses, the artificial intelligence can work as a tutor, can give all suggestions, can be personalized, and can give, like, probably you must be knowing, one of these chat GPTs which become very, very popular. Even if you want to write an official letter, if you want to write a personal letter, even if you want to prepare a personal lecture, even if you want to talk, or even if you want to prepare an assignment, prepare a thesis, this type of ads with the artificial intelligence, they are personalizing the learning very, very much. But one thing that I want to tell you, with the availability of artificial intelligence, we do not want our students to lose their creativity, to lose the ability to analyze, to synthesize, and to think critically. So the artificial intelligence, whatever is there, I think, like, whatever the apps that are there that need to be used, but still not that they should be simply copied. There's that human capabilities, like whatever is there, like thinking, creating, analyzing, synthesizing, solving problem, right, should be used along with this availability of artificial intelligence. So wherever it is possible for teaching the simple courses, basic courses, so it can take the place of a tutor or a teacher also. So maybe the algebra intelligent tutoring system, artificial intelligence based education apps, automatic grading, the system focus on equation solving, symbol manipulation. So easy to identify points of students. For this, the artificial intelligence is being used and various apps are available now. That is also a very, very important emerging trend of a 21st century, and that is also being specified by NEP 2020. Apart from that, the video-based learning. This is, of course, a de facto medium for learning purpose. Right from your pre-primary to higher education, there can be a video-based learning. So they can also be, the available resources can be used. The teachers themselves, they can create the video-based learning. There are so many teachers who are preparing the video-based lessons. They are uploading it on the YouTubes, and they are also sharing it in the classrooms, right? Instead of simply reading the long paragraphs, the students prefer to watch videos for better understanding. And these videos will be made available to the students because it can be used anytime and anywhere. In a traditional classroom, if a teacher is delivering a lecture, only the students who are present in that particular classroom will be benefited. And with a only lecturing, only some part of the concepts, and some part of the lecture may be remembered and the remaining part may be forgotten. When there is a video-based learning, and when the material is made available, the students, like both in the class and off the class, can utilize, and the students after the class, whenever they feel that certain concepts are not understood, again and again they can repeat it again and again. They can watch it and they can learn and they can relearn, and they can make their understanding better, and it helps in knowledge retention process. So video based learning, right from like pre-primary to the higher education, it can be used. Both created videos and maybe available videos can be used on any topic. So penetration and new technology innovations like smart televisions, Android powered televisions are likely to increase video consumption for the users. Maybe in the classrooms, the teachers can use these smart televisions, or maybe Android powered televisions, and you are having smart boards and all that. And maybe on the mobiles, they are available for the students to make use of, maybe on tabs or computers, or maybe on the laptops. They can also be made available at a personal level. Maybe for a classroom, the televisions can also be made use of, and where the lessons can be provided to the students. And the important benefits of these video based lessons, they are scalable, and it can be easily used repetitively. As I said, if a lecture is delivered, then again, in case if you are repeating your lecture, the same lecture, the teacher may repeat it, maybe with the more effectiveness or maybe less effectiveness. The teacher may add some new points, the teacher may forget a few points, and it is not possible for any human being to repeat the whole 1 hour lecture or 45-minute lecture as it was done earlier. But if it is audio taped or if it is video based, right? So it can be repeatedly, it can be used for the benefit of the student, and students can also use it repetitively, and they can watch that video and they can learn some difficult concepts. So that helps even in interactive or interesting videos to make higher education learning more interesting. So this video based learning can become interactive. The students will be watching it, and the students can analyze a point by repeating it again and again. And they can also be made interesting. Maybe in the videos, you can integrate the text, you can integrate simulations, you can integrate the animations, you can make it more and more interesting. And it adds lives to the e-learning course by making it effective and engaging. So when there are online courses or e-learning courses are there, instead of having only the textual material, by having the video-based learning, it can become more engaging and it can be more effective also. And apart from that, it can also increase the learner engagement and participation. So this happens with all types of computer or technology used or based devices. Automatically, one of the important benefits that it increases learner engagement as well as participation of the students. And it also reduces cognitive overload and maximizes retention. So definitely to tell you, it reduces cognitive overload and maximizes the retention. To tell you the example, when I just uh, joined the department, we were hardly having that I'm talking about 40 years back or 38, 39 years back. Hardly that universities even had any computers or any computer labs, and all the lectures were just delivered orally, or at most OHPs were used or transparencies were used, and they were also not in much use. And you, as teachers, all of you must be knowing in higher education, a lecture of 1 hour, 2 hour, daily or 3 hours, a teacher need to have a lot of material, and cognitively you need to arrange the material, and you need to lecture it, and you need to give the correct information and facts and figures correct to the students, and that enhances the cognitive load of a teacher. You are taxing your brain, right? to in remembering or in memorizing certain facts, maybe the dates, or maybe certain the definitions, maybe the theories and all that. Now, with the availability of these type of devices, sometimes to start with, whenever I used to go for in the beginning, I'm talking about 35 years or 30, no, when the HRDCs were started, not 35 years or 30 years, when they were started, maybe in the beginning when we started lecturing, maybe with a 15 minutes break, 3 hours of lecturing used to be highly like burdensome. We used to deliver lecture for such a long time, right? Giving all facts, figures, and all that. When I was teaching, I used to teach one of the chapters on Constitution. So many articles on minorities, on marginalized groups, or maybe on education, or maybe on language, or medium of instruction, or maybe different types of of course, by God's grace, I had a very good memory. I used to give all the articles, maybe in every lecture, so many definitions and all that. With age, to have so much of load, cognitive load on your this one, to have so much of memory, so much of it becomes difficult over a period of time, because you would have acquired lot of knowledge, multiple work, multiple types of administration work and all that, that adds up to the stress. And these availability of this technology based devices, whether it is PowerPoint, whether it is audio lectures, or whether it is video lectures, it can definitely reduce the cognitive overload. And today I'm making these PowerPoint presentation, right? All this material is available to me. I need not have all the cognitive burden. Of course, I have prepared it. I can speak for 2 hours, 3 hours, but still, to have at least a visual, and also I need not give a lot of stress to my brain. I can just read out. I can also make point. We need not read out everything. You can have the point. You can just read it. You can give the example, and you can elaborate over that, right? You can maximize the retention of the student, and that definitely increases the effectiveness of teaching, as well as reduces the cognitive burden or overload on the teachers also. And the students also, when they are preparing, when they are coming and making a presentation, it's not just that the student should also be asked only for making a oral presentation. They can also be video presentations. They can also be like PowerPoint presentations. There can also be other type of technology based devices that can also help the students in maximizing their retention, as well as the presentations, which helps the other peer group also to see what is being done. And also it provides a simpler and practical learning experience. So when you are having a video based learning, a minimum at least two senses are involved. One is hearing, other one is seeing. So we say that senses are gateways to knowledge. Whatever the knowledge that we acquire it through senses. Either we get knowledge either by hearing, by seeing, or by touching, or by smelling, or by doing it. So any knowledge or anything that you are having, that is passed through only through the senses. So the more the number of senses are involved, the more the knowledge is acquired, the more learning takes place, and there is a more retention of learning. So in a traditional classroom, the teacher only lectures, only one sense, that is hearing, is ear is involved, only hearing is involved. So with less number of senses involved, the retention of learning is also lesser. So you hear and you forget. So if in case at least you are using hear and seeing, then the more learning takes place. Apart from that, you are hearing, seeing, and doing, right? Then three senses are involved, and the learning becomes more and more. So that way, the retention of learning, the practical learning experiences becomes more simpler, and retention of learning takes place. And it is also cost-effective training approach. Excuse me. And it is a cost-effective training approach. Now, the pandemic has started all over the world, how this technology can be used for the advantage and benefit of all. So earlier, almost all these training sessions, or maybe the faculty development programs, or maybe the workshops or refresher courses, they used to be only face to face or physical mode, and people maybe from all over the country or maybe the state, they were supposed to be there for a 3-week program or a 1-week program physically. Even the resources and maybe the arrangement of lot of other type of facilities, and there used to be a lot of cost involved. And now with the availability of these technological benefits available to us, now there are online courses, and maybe the teachers sitting on their own maybe comfort zones, maybe in their colleges, maybe in their houses, both resource persons and as well as the participants, they are reaping these benefits. And apart, not only that, so that way the training approach is become cost effective. So whether they are video based lessons or whether they are audio based, and now along with these PowerPoints that the resource person is interacting with the participants, okay, so that way hearing and watching the materials, it's leading to a lot of benefits. So that way it is also a cost effective, not only a teaching approach, a learning approach, but also a training approach. Next one is self-paced learning. Almost all technology driven learning, whether it is online or flip based or video based or anything or virtual, anything which is learned by the students on their own, where it is personalized, where it is self learning, they are all self paced. Self paced, what does it mean? Self paced means each student will take their own time in learning the material, studying the material at their own pace. Maybe in a traditional classroom, what happens when a lecture is presented, it is presented to the whole group. Some students may learn it very quickly, like whatever the lecture is presented. Some student may grasp completely. Some students may grasp not completely. They may have some doubts. Some students may comprehend very little. But in a traditional classroom, there is no room for masterizing the content. The teacher will move on to the next lesson. But whenever we are using these technology driven usages are there, whether they are online learning or electronic learning or e-learning, anything that you are providing, each student will take their own time in a self-mode study. But we see that every student learns, every student masterizes the content. Time is a variable, whereas the goal or mastery of learning will be same. Whereas in case of traditional learning, the time is fixed, right? Mastery is not fixed. It varies from student to student. Some student learn more, some student learn less. So time is fixed. But in case of all types of technology driven usage, the time is a variable where mastery is fixed. And that is what is required for a retention of learning. Mastery of learning is very, very important. And that is possible only through technology driven usage of e-learning, or it helps in self-paced learning. That is a very, very important approach for education, because education is provided to the students in order to develop knowledge, skill, understanding, attitudes, and everything. In a traditional approach, there is no much scope for a self-paced learning. So with the availability of these technology-driven usages, it is possible to have a self-paced learning, and the students, all students, that the knowledge, whatever is required and whatever understanding is required, whatever level of capabilities are required, and that would be fixed. The students would take their own time and they will learn. That is very, very important in any educational setup. And of course, the benefits of self-paced learning is that the students can learn at their own pace. Pace in the sense, each student will have their own capability, level of comprehension, level of intelligence, maybe their own interest. In a traditional classroom, what happens? The teacher may start from a introduction, maybe from the basic concepts. My teacher may repeat certain things, which some of the students must have already learned, or some students must be knowing it. For them, they may feel that it's a waste of time. There may be some, in case if the teacher doesn't want to unnecessarily repeat certain basic concept, starts from like maybe where it is required. There may be a few students who might not have learned the basic concepts. For them, maybe keeping pace to what is being taught without knowing the foundation or without knowing the basic may be very, very difficult. So in a self-paced learning, what happens? Every student learn at their own speed. Pace in the sense at their own speed, but everyone grasps the concept with online or personalized learning methodology, or when they are learning the courses or maybe the certification programs, they are taught online mode. So that helps in convenience and cost effectiveness. So convenience, so you need not physically come all the way spending time, energy, right, and resources, and they are cost effective. So that way, all these courses and certification programs also are taught on the online mode. That is also helping in the self-paced learning. And it is suited for all types of learning styles. As I said, some students like to learn by hearing, that is auditory style, learning style, visual learning style, and kinesthetic learning style. Auditory, some students like to learn by hearing, whether it is a lecture, whether it is audio recording, or whether it is a radio learning. That is that some students, they get bored of just hearing. They like to watch, see, maybe observation, or maybe they like to probably watch films, watch television. They like to see YouTubes, they like to see animations, they like to see. That means they believe in seeing and remembering and learning. And kinesthetic, some students, they get bored only hearing and watching. They are the students who cannot sit in one place. They are very, very not only curious, they want to involve themselves. That is learning by doing. For example, some students like to learn by going to the fields and by participating in demonstrations, by doing experiments, by doing real role play, by having experiential learning. Okay, so that is kinesthetic learning. So the use of these technological devices personalizes the learning and suited for all types of learning styles, and that is possible when you are using the technology driven devices. And no scheduling issues. So in a traditional classroom, probably the timetable is given. You have a maths class, you have a science class, you have a language class, or maybe even in higher education. So the different
ಇದೆಂತ
lecturers
ಪುಸ್ತಕ
lecture at a different
ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಯಾ
time. So no,
ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಯಾ
kindly mute your
ಸಂತೆ ಇದು
microphone.
ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಇದು
Excuse
ಹಿಡ್ಕೊಂಡು
me,
ಹೋಗುದಾ
somebody's microphone is on. Kindly
ಬರ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಾ
mute it. Kindly mute your
ನಾವಿದ್ದೇವೆ
microphone.
ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ವಸ್ತು ಅಲ್ಲ ನಿಮ್ಮ ವಸ್ತು ಅಲ್ಲ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕೇರ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಇದು ಮಾಡಿ
So in case of anywhere, anytime, since learning is flexible, no scheduling issues. So anybody can learn anytime and in any place. And in helping, and it also helps in building a solid base. That means a student, when he learns, acquires the knowledge, when the student develops certain capabilities, develops certain abilities and skills to analyze material, to synthesize material, think creatively, right, and think critically. So that develops a solid base, and then he can also feel professionally sound and personally sound. And there will be a greater focus and improves the ownership. In the sense, when the material is available to the students, when all the material is given to the student, and a student feels that anytime he can learn, anywhere he can learn, wherever he wants he can learn, it develops a greater focus and improves ownership. The student feels confident that material is available to him and he can learn anytime and anywhere. So that improves the ownership, and it is also good for permanent content. There are certain contents which in education we want a students to learn for permanent. So for such type of permanent content, there are certain facts, maybe certain procedures, maybe certain principles, maybe certain maybe issues that everyone should know and should retain it permanently. In such case, that the material should be available to all the learners permanently. So this online materials, or maybe that when it is given as a ownership to the students, that materials, that is good for having the material permanently with them. So podcasting. So of course, a new there is a radio podcasting, that is audio, but now we are also having the video podcastings also. That is been there are also Apple, Google. They are all different post podcasting channels are been coming up, both audio as well as video, on certain topics, or maybe on some discussions, or maybe some acquiring knowledge for learning. That is also an emerging trend. They are being used in different industries, including the film industries and all that. And now that can also be used in the educational field for acquiring knowledge as well as for learning also. So it is anytime learning, listens to recorded lectures. Now there are also video lectures, and for helpful in case if it is a recorded lecture for the visually impaired students. And it also makes information personal, and it is convenient and easy to consume. That is consume in the sense to use, and time efficient form of communication. And it is portable. It is available to the students anytime they can carry the material with them. So now we said these are all the emerging trends that we can use it in education. But at the same time, if at all, if you want to use all these technologies, the technology, as I said, in education, whether it is a hardware or a software, or maybe the other supporting infrastructure, or maybe environment. So there are a few challenges to cross in implementing technology in education. So, what are those challenges? Without understanding the challenges, without knowing like how to implement, it is not possible to successfully implement technology in education. So, what are those challenges that we need to overcome? So, incorporation of technology in education has been a debatable topic among many educationists and parents due to the challenges faced to incorporate. So convincing parents and teachers about the benefits that technology-driven education offers is one of the biggest challenge. One of the biggest challenge, as parents, as you must be having children, there are a few issues which parents feel highly worried that the children may access content which is not socially desirable. And the parent may feel that the use of technology continuously, it harms mentally as well as physically. Even teachers may also believe that. So convincing like the right use of the technology, the right use of content, convincing the parents and teachers is considered to be a biggest challenge, because convincing in the sense you need to see that rightly, that the content, the materials be used with the proper mentoring of the teachers and proper monitoring by the parents. That is the biggest challenge on the part of the teachers as well as the parents. And that challenge needs to be accepted by the parents as well as the teachers if you want to implement technology in education. So the use of technology is dependent on another important challenge, internet connectivity, that requires more bandwidth and infrastructure, and is an added cost to the institution. Any technology that you are using, and even to our mobile phones nowadays, even to use your WhatsApp, even to use it for a digital program, even for just a small payment, whether it is a Google Pay or whatever, it's the phone pay, or even to avail maybe some facility, right? Even to have a email, even to send some information, we need to have a internet connectivity. So same, so either at a personal level or at a institutional level, that will be an added cost to the institution to have an internet connectivity with a more bandwidth and infrastructure, because you are using it for learning with the multiple number of users and students, and the institution should be prepared to have this internet connectivity with an added cost, right? So they should be able to afford that particular cost. So developing country like India still face internet connectivity issues, especially in rural areas. Because I was having an MHRD one project on radio Kelikali programs of Karnataka. I'm not criticizing. It was a very, very good venture in order to train teachers, in order to help students, especially in science, math, social studies, as well as languages. So there was a lot of manuals were prepared and lectures were delivered with lot of cost to almost thousands of schools and institutions. But the problem was in rural areas, there used to be not only just a connectivity issue, because I have physically, along with some of these people who were collecting data, there were also people who were going to supervise before the reports are prepared. I wanted to go personally and see some of these schools, how they are functioning, how this program is being used. And the problem in many of the rural areas, there never used to be electricity from 6 to 6, morning 6 to evening 6, and where the schools used to function maybe between 10 to 5, or maybe 9 to 4 or 3, whatever it is. During that time, when there is no electricity, the question of internet connectivity does not arise. And there are schools where there are electricity, but there is no proper internet connectivity. Even if there was a internet connectivity, there is no proper more bandwidth, where there used to be a problem with the noise. It never used to be clear, like what is been presented and how it is. And these were some of the problems in some of the developing countries, and especially when it comes to rural areas. So this is also a challenge, like how we will overcome this challenge or cross this challenge, if at all, if you want to use technology, integrate technology in education. And still today, many teachers are skeptical about the use of technology education, as they fear it may replace their role in future. Even in to tell you, not only in India, even in a country like America, that a highly developed country, when first computers were introduced, teachers were highly skeptical, and they were fearing that in future they may be replaced by computers. But their fear was unfounded, because even in future to come, whatever the types of robots would come, but nothing would work without a human touch. And everything has to be modeled, everything has to be done by a human being. And the role of a teacher may change from a teacher to a facilitator, but still nothing can replace a teacher. So all these technologies has to be used only by the teachers as a teaching aid. So this fear has to be overcome by the teachers, if at all, if we want to, because they are seeing it as a threat rather than as an opportunity. So the teacher should think that technology is a aid in teaching rather than a threat, and it is, they should use it as a, take it as an opportunity and utilize it as a teaching aid rather than seeing it as a threat. And that is an important, a very, very important challenge that we need to overcome. And the another important fundamental obstacle to the growth of e-learning, lack of access to the necessary technology infrastructure. So not only it is just the electricity or maybe the internet connectivity, apart from that, the other supporting infrastructure is also very, very important, that many a times we are lacking. So without this technology infrastructure, right, so it is very difficult to implement or to integrate technology in education. Or maybe poor or insufficient technology infrastructure, right, can lead to unsavory experiences that may cause more damage than good to teachers, students, as well as to the learning experience. So if at all, if you like, even if you are having a connectivity, and if you are having a electricity, in the absence of electricity, you need to have an alternative arrangement. You need to have an alternative arrangement of probably having the standby infrastructure, right? So that the learning experience of the student is not again becomes savory, unsavory, right? And that should not cause, because many a times when you are watching a very good TV program, or maybe you are watching a cricket and all that, due to rain, all of a sudden, if the program is stopped for some time, and then you feel that highly anxious, and when the program starts, you would have lost a very, very important over important part of it, and that leads to a very, you feel a very negative experience, and that should not have a that type of experiences should not be there in a institution for a teaching and learning experience. That requires a alternative or standby infrastructure. Hardware, and sometimes while the cost of hardware and softwares are passing, but still the other costs that are often are not being factored into deployment of e-learning ventures. So sometimes maybe availing a hardware as well as availing a software, and also having the infrastructure and the support infrastructure and maintenance cost and appropriate training to the staff, all these things will make technology costly. Until and unless you train the teachers or maybe the staff members how to utilize this technology, all that infrastructure, all that hardware and software has no meaning. So it is not just merely the use of hardware and the purchase or availing of hardware and software infrastructure, but training of teachers is also very, very important. All these requires all these increases the cost of the technology. So this is an important challenge again, training of teachers in the use of the hardware and the software, apart from spending on the purchase of hardware, software, as well as infrastructure, support and maintenance. And importance of embracing technology in education. If you want to embrace technology in education, it is an era of social networking. Online communities of like-minded people can make a significant presence on an online platform to connect and engage with the key stakeholders, like whether parents or students or interest groups. Nowadays, you are seeing a lot of social networking. People, they come out with a cause and they ask the like-minded people, right, to contribute and to make their presence felt on the online platforms. If at all, if you want to enable technology in education, if you want to embrace technology in education, like-minded people forums, maybe the various interest groups need to be developed through social networking sites and through online other communities, right? And you need to engage all the stakeholders, whether they are parents, communities, and students, or maybe the authorities, maybe the policymakers, whoever they are administrators, so they can be a part of these type of online platforms or social networking groups. In today's dynamic world, we are surrounded by technology, and in no way do we see ourselves going backwards. And it is impossible to go backwards. So the technology is going to stay with us, and technology is going to be much more in future. So we need to embrace technology, and we cannot devalue the importance of, again, teachers. Rather, it assists them in providing a more effective teaching learning experience for the teachers as well as the students. And we should not devalue its importance also, and the importance of teachers also, because it is going to assist them in providing a more effective teaching learning environment. And therefore the schools, whether they are schools or whether they are universities or colleges, therefore they should have a balance between technology enabled and nature based teaching to equip its students for a better tomorrow. So we are saying nature based teaching maybe in a blended mode. So you cannot completely do away with the face-to-face learning. You cannot remove universities, colleges, schools, and just be having only an online community, or that's not possible. It hampers the human development, the natural capabilities, the moral development, language development, the human qualities. So you need to have a blended mode. You need nature-based. You need to have the field based, inquiry based, right? And as well as face to face teaching as well as online communities and online teaching, so that we can equip the students to face the tomorrow in a better manner. Benefits of trends in educational technology. So the GPS enabled mobile apps to enhance the navigation experience via interactive campus modes, robust CMS, that is, and real-time chats. They can store and share information, communicate students in real time. So the curriculum, event, exam dates, lectures, everything can be easily available to the students. Social media integration helps in connecting with the alumni and students to boost awareness and engagements of events and campaigns. Maybe it can be a Facebook, it can be a WhatsApp, it can be a Instagrams, it can be so many other social networking medias. And custom educational mobile apps can also be very beneficial in spreading the news and announcements in real time within the institution. And digital assessment tools are available, that is to assess the students very, very conveniently. It is not just merely assessing the students only examination or test papers, but the complete to students portfolios are, that means like whatever the student, it is not just merely paper testing, it is also the knowledge evaluation, are also the students complete it portfolio, the students participation, everything. It is like NEP speaks about 360-degree evaluation. So it is not just merely academic, social, psychological, spiritual, moral, right? So all-round development of the student is very, very important. So there has to be a 360-degree assessment and evaluation, and that there we can make use of the digital assessment tools to evaluate the students, mental, social, spiritual, economical, every way. So the digital assessment is better than the paper testing. Paper testing, it does only the cognitive assessment. So whereas the human being, the life experiences, or maybe success in life, to be successful in profession, to be successful a social individual, it is not merely cognitive, but also social, spiritual, morals, and also the attitude development. Everything is very important. So you need to assess. So digital assessment can takes place better than paper testing. And it can also be used for finding out the nowadays there are a lot of in order to see that there are no manipulations and there are no plagiarisms and all that, intentional or accidental, there are so many tools that have been developed, and UGC and every university, and there are internationally available free tools as well as paid tools are available, which allows the students to check any type of intentional or unintentional or accidental plagiarisms or copying or citations or references, to recheck the assignments before submitting them. And it helps the teachers to check how far that the materials or work is original, all right, and how the students can take the tests multiple number of times, and how the gradings can be done again and again without much effort on the part of the teachers. So these are all different ways of using digital assessment tools. We can give instant feedback, track progress, creating survey-based assignments, gamifying the answers. So advantages of there are digital assessments, which increases the educational goals. It can deter cheating, increase students' engagement, and it also helps in getting detailed analytics, provide immediate grading and prompt feedback to students and teachers. Technology can enhance assessment, that is both for summative as well as formative assessment activities. Summative may be thrice a year or biannual or maybe annual. Formative, it can be weekly, it can be fortnight, it can be daily, whatever it is. You can share immediate feedback, and you can do the task tactic, testing the skills, knowledge, peer and self-assessment, and the assessment will be non-judgmental. So if you are doing it through using this computer-based, it is non-judgmental. If human being is doing it, there can also be a human error, there can also be prejudices, there can also be some sort of intentional or unintentional favorism and all that. So these assessment tools can provide non-judgmental feedbacks to the students. There are also massive and open online courses which have become very, very popular since 2012, which were introduced in 2006. We are having a lot of support communities to interact students, professors, and teaching assistants when we are using these MOOC courses. So you all know in higher education that MOOC use licensed courses and free courses also. And also feedback to quick quizzes, assignments are also available. Emergence of, but since 2012, they have become very, very popular. Peer review group collaborations. Yeah, that is why I'm just putting it on. Yeah. So government of India is giving through Swayam MOOC platforms where they are all freely available. Okay. Starting from the school students as well as to the higher education, AICTs, MHRD, every Swayam features I have given. They are available just online to you. You are all higher education teachers. You are all going to access these materials. Okay. In conclusion, I can only say that implementation of whatever these technology integrated hardwares and softwares are there in education, they are very, very challenging, and you need to overcome the challenges. Only then only you can use. And one thing in the end, I can just say, a teacher should always remain a master of any of these technological tools. If you become the slave to these technological tools, then the technology will become a master. So all these technological tools should be used as teaching aids where the teacher should be a master. Then only our teaching will be effective as well as learning will be promoted and that would be enhanced. So there are a lot of other emerging technologies that can be used and integrated into the teaching and learning. With this, I thank all of you for such a long, patient listening or